Hello and welcome to the 6th ever edition of the Kickin Out Of Kayfabe podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam, and today we are coming off the heels of Great Balls of Fire. Yesterday I recorded the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view review. As I'm talking right now, that film is rendering and getting ready for upload, which is good. Today's Wednesday for me, and I'm not feeling that good. Not in spirits, but more in that I'm kind of tired, and that's really it. I kind of almost fell asleep twice during me watching SmackDown this week, and it's kind of fitting because nothing happened on SmackDown this week. Nothing happened on Raw that major. I mean, it seems like we kind of know the main event of SummerSlam now. However, the thing I do kind of like how the main event will be probably Brock Lesnar and not Jinder Mahal. Even though I would really like to see Jinder Mahal main event a pay-per-view, or main event a big pay-per-view like SummerSlam, I don't think they're really willing to do that, even if he is the champion. Anyway, today we're going to be doing a Raw and SmackDown review for the latest editions of Raw and SmackDown. As I said yesterday, I did record the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view review, so we're coming off the heels of that pay-per-view. The pay-per-view overall was pretty good. We did have a few good matches, but almost equally bad matches as well. Speaking of one of those bad matches, Big Cass vs Enzo Amore happened. Big Cass did defeat Enzo Amore, so that seems to be the end of their matchups. Not the end of the feud, but the end of the matchups. And I did say, I think this was one of the, because yesterday I actually had watched a little bit of Raw before reviewing Great Balls of Fire, and I think this was one of the things that I mentioned, but obviously Big Show and Big Cass are going to go forward with the feud now. Another thing I forgot to mention was in the Alexa Bliss match, when she actually did a callback to her match with Becky Lynch, where she showed off her talent, or her gift of being double jointed, and her arm was all messed up. I forgot to say that, and I was a bit annoyed that I didn't, because I thought that was one of the best parts of that match, and I completely forgot about it, which tells you a lot about how invested I was into that matchup. Anyway, Big Cass kicked off Raw, and he came up to a lot of boos. He came up to again the entrance music that I'm still going back and forth on if I really like it. Like, it fits him, because I think it reminds me of the Natural Disasters theme, because it's slow. It's like it's almost as if he's walking to the ring. The slow like drum beat just go like almost making him like Godzilla walking, almost as if he's marching his way to the ring almost. I don't know where I was going with that, to be honest, but anyway, he basically talked about how he was going to win the WWE Universal Championship. He was going to be the next champion. He would also headline WrestleMania, and he would represent the company better than anyone ever has. Thank you, Bleach Report, for being my friend in this episode. Last episode I couldn't find Bleach Report for Great Balls of Fire, sadly. Basically, he then basically said that he basically kind of bragged that he was 7 foot tall and all of that, and then Big Show came out, and they kind of had a little clumsy brawl. At Great Balls of Fire, the Brock Lesnar Samoa Joe match was kind of, in a way, a little clumsy, but as I said in my review, that UFC fights and real fights aren't perfect. They are clumsy, but it wasn't the same. This just came off as there was a bit in it where Big Show kind of, they were meant to like do a little bit of, like almost a little bit of it turned into mat wrestling, but I think it was meant to be more like he was meant to go off the ropes or whatever, or he was near the ropes or whatever, and he was meant to go over the ropes. I don't know, but I think Big Cass kind of went like, not sandbagged, but he drooped a little bit. I don't know if sandbag is the correct word, but Big Show basically had he dropped him almost. It looked like the matchup between them. Personally, I'm not interested whatsoever. I'm not really interested in the whole Big Cass feud. I haven't really been interested in it since the start of this thing. However, I was looking at I think it's TV Tracks. TV Tracks uploads a lot of clips to of podcasts such as the Don Tony Game and Castle Show, Solid Monster, Solid Monster Sounds Off, Good Mic Work, and one of the latest clips, I can't remember who it was off, but it was who should be the next WWE Universal Champion. They had 4 pitches. I think it was Brock Lesnar. I don't know if it was Brock Lesnar as well, but I knew it had Roman Reigns, Samoa Joe, and I can't remember the 2 others. I think one was Braun Strowman. I can't remember the last one. It could still be Brock Lesnar because he's included in that. But I think that Big Cass could potentially be, a future not Hall of Famer, but I think he could potentially be a future WWE Universal Champion. I don't think he'll be the next Universal Champion. If anyone's going to be the next Universal Champion, it will be probably Roman Reigns, or hopefully, personally, I would like to see Samoa Joe hold it. I'll come to that in a little bit. Because I was talking to someone today briefly about it, but I've kind of thought about it a little more, and I kind of like the idea where the storyline's going. But anyway, the Big Show match. This match is going to obviously happen at SummerSlam. Hopefully, it won't go that long, because Big Show matches aren't really that fun unless you're breaking rings, and you can't do that every match, can you? Speaking of something that isn't really interesting, is the Finn Balor Elias Sampson match. Now, basically, this match and I believe the next match, not the next match, a match later on in the card, sorry, those are 2 matches that should have been on the card at Great Balls of Fire, or should have at least, well, they should have been on the card. They should not have been on the next night on Raw. And this Finn Balor Elias Sampson match should have been on Great Balls of Fire, mainly to give if you're going to make Finn Balor win, give him a big win, because you're not doing anything with him. And at least make Elias Sampson lose with some dignity, rather than just on some random Raw. At least give him like a pay-per-view date. Give him a pay-per-view match. Basically, Sampson was in the ring at the start of the segment, and he was, of course, doing his shtick where he basically, sings to the crowd, annoying the crowd, and then Balor's music hits. He interrupts Sampson, of course, and then they had a pretty decent match. Finn Balor won, of course, with the coup de grace, which, personally, I think that I'm not a fan of Finn Balor. Personally, I'm not that interested in him in ring, because I don't like Sami Zayn for a very similar reason, and that's because I think he does. You know how John Cena has the 5 moves of doom, which he demonstrated in full effect on SmackDown? It's a bit similar with Finn Balor, because he has a lot of he does a lot of the same things in matches, and I haven't seen that many Finn Balor matches, but the ones I have seen, they were pretty much the same. A little bit with Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn always has to do a dive that looks awful. Now, dives aren't bad, right? Akira Tozawa's headbutt is fine. The ones where you actually land on your butt, like a plancha, that's fine. But when you see someone, you look fuck. That was good. I have a stuttering problem. Nice. Anyway, I'm not gonna cut that out. I'm just gonna keep that in for effect. That was embarrassing. Anyway, you look at the ropes, and then you run at the person, and then you jump, and then you dive onto them, but you kind of push them, or like you just kind of slide off them. That looks awful. It doesn't do any damage. It's like oh, I'm going to run off the ropes and jump on you, when I could easily just roll you into the ring and spine buster you, or something, a more devastating maneuver. But it also sucks because Elias Sampson is getting jobbed out here, in my opinion. Now, Elias Sampson, I did say, was going to lose this feud anyway, even if this feud does last until SummerSlam, which I don't think it will. I think this is done now. I think Elias Sampson will be on the pre-show at least, hopefully. But I don't think that I want Sampson to do well in WWE, but I think his character and his gimmick is a little bit vaudevillain. It's like all all visual, or like the Vaudevillain's entrance was their main thing, but his singing was the main thing. Apparently they are quite high on him backstage, but I always doubt people like the Drifter and the Velveteen Dream. And I know he's in NXT, but currently, what are they bringing to the table? Like, no way, Jose, what's he doing down in NXT? I don't know. Anyway, then we had arguably the biggest upset win of Raw. We had the Hardy Boys versus the Club, also known as Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. I call them the Club because they are the Club. Basically, the Hardy Boys kind of addressed their match at Great Balls of Fire, and they basically talked about, are they going to fade away and classify themselves as obsolete, which was a little bit of a reference to their Broken Days, which they got a pretty big pop for. Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, of course, basically coming back into, I guess, I wouldn't say. I won't say the title picture. No, they're entering. They could be potentially entering a feud with the Hardy Boys. We don't know yet. But the thing is, they came out and they this led to a match. They had a bit of a back and forth. It led to a match eventually, and surprisingly, the club won. Eventually, the club actually won with the Magic Killer, which is a pretty devastating move. I mean, the Boot of Doom is also a pretty devastating move, and I personally would have preferred that one to be their finishing maneuver, or at least have them both. I think they're both really good maneuvers, especially finishing maneuvers as well. After the match, the Revival's music hit, and they actually attacked the Hardy Boys. I would really like to see a fatal four-way between the four of those teams. Revival, Hardy Boys, Cesaro and Sheamus, and of course the Club, because I think they're all really capable. The only thing is, there's one face team in there, and I was actually looking at this today. There are only two face teams on Raw. So people that are saying that it needs to be face versus heel, then that's not going to happen, because they're not going to be pushing Heath Slater and Rhino in an effort to have a face versus heel dynamic. They're going to keep going with the Hardy Boys, and that's going to be really annoying, personally. Either that, or they're going to give Cesaro and Sheamus the Club to face at SummerSlam, which wasn't really going to do them any justice. Then we had the first annual Mizzies from The Miz. The Miz hosted another edition of the Miz TV. He basically had almost like this award set. He had a gold envelopes, trophies, and he had an envelope saying Mizzies. He opened it, saying that inside this envelope it will contain the greatest wrestler of all time, or whatever, and the greatest man in WWE. And basically he opened it and said Dean Ambrose, which it got a bit of a pop, until he just laughed at the crowd and said no, and just said, "No, just joking. I'm the greatest man in WWE." And then basically he said that I think it was along the lines of this. He said that he was the only person that fulfilled what they set out to do. He was the only man to actually retain his championship. Not retain his championship. He was the only man to win out of all people that people that said they were going to win. Like Seth Rollins said he was going to win. Dean Ambrose said he was going to win. The Hardys said they were going to win. That sort of thing. Ambrose came out, interrupted the ceremony, and basically The Miz almost handed the mic to him, like he had it out for him. But Dean Ambrose didn't do any. He didn't talk. He just went straight for The Miz and attacked him. Of course, he got beat down by the Miztourage until Rollins made the save, which could potentially lead to what I'm personally thinking is Rollins Miz, because I don't think we need Dean Ambrose in that picture anymore. He can do something else, potentially with Bray Wyatt or Finn Balor, maybe turning heel. Dean Ambrose turns heel, don't know. Or what we may be getting, we may be seeing the two former Shield members against the Miz and the Miztourage. Potentially with Roman in a bit of a Shield reunion or something. I don't know. I'm just thinking Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins against the Miztourage, match of the year quality. The segment was pretty good. I mean, it basically just sets up the Miz's feuds now for SummerSlam and probably forward. Maurice, it seems like they're kind of dropping the whole Maurice thing now. It's like she wants time off, but like they were like having like there was a rift between them in their relationship, but now it just seems that they're fine. But yeah. Anyway, then we had Sasha Banks and Bayley against Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss. This was I think this match happened the other week. Yeah, it did. And this time, basically, instead of Bayley being taken out like she did in the other week, Bayley actually got the pinfall over Alexa Bliss because she basically rolled her up at the end to get the pinfall for the win. So personally, I think at SummerSlam, I would like to see Nia Jax and Sasha Banks against Alexa Bliss, not Bayley. I would like to see a triple threat, not a fatal four-way. Not because I dislike Bayley. I do dislike Bayley, but I don't think that she needs to be in the title picture, to be honest. The match was okay for what it was. Bayley actually won a match in this one. But speaking about amazing matches, which I wasn't, but I will be now. R-Truth versus Goldust had I believe, their final match in their best of 7 series. Goldust won. There was a pretty good spot where Goldust actually dropped down as he normally does and hits R-Truth in the face, but instead R-Truth drops down and hits Goldust in the face. Goldust delivered the curtain call for the win. This was kind of a nothing match, really. And again, this is surprising but this is the other match that didn't make it onto the Great Balls Fire card. Both men aren't going to be doing anything now. I don't think R-Truth is going into a feud with The Miz, or Goldust is going into a feud with The Miz. I would like to see a feud between Goldust and The Miz currently, because their gimmicks are kind of similar. Because The Miz is an A-lister and the Goldust is a pretentious art house director. Then we had the Kurt Angle, Paul Heyman, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Samoa Joe promo for SummerSlam. Basically, this whole thing was determining the main event for SummerSlam. I think Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle were talking about the next defense when Paul Heyman says that Brock Lesnar only fights on his terms, and then Roman Reigns interrupted and he came down to the ring. They had a bit of a back and forth, and then Joe came out as well. Joe and Brock Lesnar, that I would like to see again, personally, maybe in a stipulation. Steel cage, potentially, that would be kind of cool. I don't really want to see a Roman Reigns match. I think Roman Reigns is a capable worker, but he's not interesting. Like we've seen him before with Brock Lesnar, and the match was okay. But I mean, I want to see Samoa Joe Lesnar again, personally. If anyone's going to be going up against him. Strowman didn't appear in the segment purely because he nearly got killed at Great Balls Fire 24 hours prior. So Kurt Angle basically set up a match between between Samoa Joe and the other Joe, Roman Reigns, for next week on Raw. The winner will face Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. However, the only thing in this is I don't really understand why Samoa Joe is getting another title shot, or getting another attempt, because he lost his first one. And even Paul Heyman says that, beating The Undertaker is a good reason for beating The Undertaker is a good reason for challenging for a title. And it seems like WWE are actually putting effort into the SummerSlam this year. I mean, last year's SummerSlam was okay. I'm going to actually have a quick look at the card, because I mean, this SummerSlam is seemingly going to be pretty stacked. This year's SummerSlam, we're going to have, probably, in my opinion, Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe. I want to see Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe again at SummerSlam. I personally think that Roman Reigns is going to be facing Goldberg, because there's been a little bit of murmurings about that recently. I personally would like to see that. I personally would like to. If they're going to hold off onto it until WrestleMania, that'll be, I think, a little bit better. Yeah, last year's SummerSlam, what do we have? I'm going to name all of the big matches, basically. We had AJ Styles versus John Cena. That was one of the bigger matches. We had Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton. Those were basically all of the big matches, you know. Previous year, 2015, we have had. I haven't actually watched these pay-per-views, so I don't know if they're that good. But last year, now I'm just saying the ones that seem, you know, like big matches. New Day won the tag team championships there. Steve Amell and Neville defeated Stardust and King Barrett. Maybe not a money match, but more of a, you know, celebrity match. There was Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns defeated Wyatt family. Seth Rollins defeated John Cena. What else? We had Kevin Owens against Cesaro, Undertaker against Brock Lesnar. And then 2014, we also had... What do we have at 2014? I think it was John Cena versus Lesnar. Yeah, we had John Cena versus Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, Stephanie McMahon, Brie Bella. So it seems like after a kind of a lackluster year last year, we're going to have a pretty good SummerSlam this year. We then had the first and only cruiserweight match on this Raw. Typically we have maybe 2 or 3, depending on the Raw at hand. But it was Akira Tozawa and Cedric Alexander against Neville and Noam Dar. And Akira Tozawa actually pinned Tozawa. No, Tozawa actually pinned Neville, never mind, in a pretty good match. This is kind of good because if you're going to book Tozawa as an endurance monster, it's kind of good to tell the story that even after a really grueling match on Sunday, he can actually perform better than the following day. Then the main event was Seth Rollins versus Bray Wyatt. Basically, Wyatt targeted Rollins' eye for the majority of the match, or near towards the end of the match, I think, and he actually did it as well. Yeah, I'm reading Bleacher Report like different paragraphs at once. Yeah, he targeted the match. He targeted the Kingslayer's eye for the majority of the match, and then eventually he poked it again and delivered a really devastating Sister Abigail, and also got the win there as well, because it kind of spiked him. He kind of went up on his head a little bit, like he went like vertical. After the match, when Bray disappeared, The Miz, Bud and Kurt Axel came out through the audience and basically ambushed Rollins. Dean Ambrose then came out and saved Rollins and basically just battered Miz with a steel chair, which was pretty good. Overall, I think that Raw was pretty good. I did think it was better than SmackDown this week, definitely. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good show. Anyway, moving on to our SmackDown Live review. I did say that SmackDown was, for me anyway, I thought it was the weakest show this week. Basically, first of all, AJ Styles did win the WWE United States Championship at Madison Square Garden the other night. I think this is a good move because I think that it's going to boost ticket sales, especially if there's always championship matches on cards anyway. But I think that if you include a championship match on a card, the more people will buy tickets, because at the end of the day, another title change could occur. You know, imagine if I don't think this will ever happen, but I would like to see it. I would like to see the WWE World Championship change on a house show. I don't think it will personally, but it would be kind of nice to see at one point. But anyway, AJ Styles issues an open challenge to the locker room, and Cena comes out and answers the call. Just before the match is about to begin, Owens and Rusev attack Cena and Styles, and this of course sets up a tag match later on the night for the main event. I believe it's the main event anyway. This reintroduction of the open challenge is going to be pretty interesting. I mean, we already had it with Kevin Owens a little bit, but it was more of a selective one. It was like, what I would have liked to see the feud carry on until they actually were in Georgia, had that open challenge, and had AJ Styles come out in that one. or had Kevin Owens refuse to do one in Georgia, and then Daniel Bryan make him do one, or give him a match, or make this an open challenge, or whatever. It was a pretty good segment because it makes Rusev look dominant. It also makes KO look dominant after losing his championship. It's a pretty good thing that your championship loss isn't on TV, because the majority of people won't see you looking weak. So at least that's a good thing. Anyway, then we had Jinder Mahal versus Ty Dillinger. Ty Dillinger actually reappeared after so many weeks of being off. I'm not the biggest fan of Ty Dillinger, and it's mainly because I can't get behind him. I'm not that interested in him. I think his gimmick is more of a heel gimmick. He's the perfect 10. Why should I be cheering for someone that thinks he's better than me? Type thing, Jinder Mahal, of course, won this with the Kalas, which I think it's a pretty weak finish, but it's not the worst. I mean, there's been wrestlers which have literally done a gorilla press to the outside and waited for a 10 count to happen. Also, Jinder, at the end of the match, talked a little bit of trash to Orton, and he also said that he's going to bring the Punjabi prison to SmackDown next week. That's going to be interesting. What's going to happen with it? Is he just going to sit in the middle of it? Is he going to sit in the middle of it, and then Randy Orton's going to pop out underneath him and RKO? I'd like to see that as well. But when he actually said he was going to bring the Punjabi prison, I actually, for a brief second, I thought he was going to say, next week I'm going to bring the Punjabi Playboy. And the other podcasters finished rendering, finally. I don't know if that came up on the recording, but who knows. Because I'm not going to listen this far in, am I? Anyway. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how they're going to work that next week. Maybe he's just going to sit in it, as I said. Xavier Woods had a match with Jey Uso. This was kind of nothing. It was just kind of a quick match. Woods, of course, wins. They're getting another match, I think, right, at Battleground. I think that's sort of been announced. I think it was announced last week in that rap battle, or the week before, probably. I would like to see another match. I do think that the match they had at Money in the Bank was very good. There was a few botches in it. However, I think it was a pretty decent match they had at Money in the Bank. Shinsuke Nakamura and Baron Corbin never started. They were meant to have a match on SmackDown, but before Baron Corbin really made it into the ring, Nakamura and him had a brawl. Carmella, interestingly, did not appear on this edition of SmackDown. Probably because otherwise, next time Shane or Daniel Bryan sees her, they're going to book another Money in the Bank ladder match for next week on SmackDown, or they're just going to jump her with a Money in the Bank ladder match. Baron Corbin actually appeared with the briefcase, remembering that making people remember that he is the Mr. Money in the Bank for this year. The feud with Nakamura, I think he's going to win it. You can't exactly... I don't believe in booking a champion or booking, Mr. Money in the Bank weak, especially against Nakamura, and you could argue, but Nakamura is one of the best. He's not... he's okay. He's not, the best, though, is he? There's better people in the WWE. There's more interesting people in the WWE. Nakamura isn't the most interesting of people. His entrance is, for me, really cringy, to be honest. But anyway, that's at Battleground. Speaking of Battleground, it was announced that there will be a Fatal 5-Way women's match to determine the new number one contender for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Another pay-per-view that Naomi doesn't need to defend her belt on. I'm gonna have another look. I've been kind of doing a little bit of research here for the past for today's podcast. But I want to have a look at all of the past SmackDown branded pay-per-views to see what matches or what pay-per-views this year Naomi has defended the championship. So she won it at Mania, right? She won it at Mania. She defended it at Money in the Bank. I know that. Backlash. Did she defend it at Backlash? I don't think she did. No, she didn't. She was in the 6-woman tag match, which she lost, so she hasn't defended it at one pay-per-view. And then she won it at Mania. So she's missed out on Backlash, and now she's missing out on Battleground. The next pay-per-view after this, I don't know, because apparently after Battleground is SummerSlam, and then both No Mercy and TLC are Raw branded, and then it's Survivor Series, so I don't really know what's going on there. Anyway, I don't like the idea of Naomi, or anyone for that matter, I guess, not having a championship match on pay-per-view every pay-per-view. If you're the champion, you should be defending that belt every single pay-per-view. You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be. Remember this 30-day thing where you don't defend the belt for 30 days, and everyone was going off on Brock Lesnar, even though Brock Lesnar's title reign is arguably the best currently in WWE, or on the main roster at least, because it actually makes you want to see the belt rather than actually being sick of it. Because I'm sick of the sight of Naomi's belt already, and she's only had LED lights on it for 1 week. But anyway, I don't believe that a champion should skip out on a pay per view. Brock Lesnar, it's a little bit different because it's a little bit different, okay, with Brock Lesnar, and the main reason is he is Brock Lesnar. If Jinder Mahal was off, there'd be even more outrage. And the thing is, I don't think it works as well with Jinder if he was in Brock Lesnar's shoes. If Jinder Mahal was off for 3 months without defending the belt once, and then defended it at Great Balls of Fire or whatever pay-per-view it is next, let's say Battleground now, as he's returning now, it wouldn't work because he's not Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar is a badass and Jinder Mahal isn't, basically. Anyway, we had a match between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair teamed up to take on Natalya and Tamina. Lana walked out midway through the match, and the Fatal 5-Way to determine the number one contender includes Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Tamina, Lana, and Natalya. I personally believe Tamina's winning that because I think that Tamina is literally just using Lana. I think they're going to help each other get to the final two, and then Tamina's going to turn on her instantly to win. I think Tamina will be challenging for that belt soon, and I think she'll be winning it as well. Hopefully. I actually like Tamina. I don't think she's the best, especially on the mic. She should be more silent than anything. But I mean, I think she's impressive in the ring. I think her, Nia Jax, those two are kind of the more physically impressive women on the main roster currently. But anyway, the match was okay. What did Lana do? Lana distracted Flair a little bit, and Tamina actually pinned her here. So, I mean, at least Tamina isn't getting pinfalls. Then there was a backstage segment between Sami Zayn and Mike and Maria Kanellis. Mike and Maria were basically just kind of doing what they normally do, giving each other flowers and all that. And Maria then demanded an apology from Zayn, which he was tired of actually apologising to them and then getting in his way, because it seemed like every time he had a match, they would be out there, even though I think this only happened once. But anyway, what happened was that Zayn asked if that Maria was the one who does all the fighting, to which she slaps him in the face, and then Mike gets a glass vase, glass vase, whatever, full of flowers over and knocks it over Sami Zayn's head. So potentially we could be seeing this match at Battleground as well. I don't really care, to be honest. I don't mind Sami Zayn. I did say earlier that I think I said I didn't really like his matches because of all the diving he does, but I don't mind him. I think he's decent on the mic at least, and he's good in the ring. He's good. I don't think his thing with Kevin Owens was very good though, but I mean, Mike Bennett, I've seen like one match of him, and that was an Impact, and it was not very good. I've seen none of Maria, but all I've seen of her is terrible. Then we had another edition of the Fashion Files, and somehow they're still doing this. Somehow they've got new ideas. Somehow WWE Creative are coming up with new ideas. I mean, I think that deserves a round of applause, to be honest. They spoofed Walker Texas Ranger in this one. They tried to... They believe that the Hype Bros were responsible for trashing their offers, basically. Mojo and Ryder basically kind of went back and forth about how the Battle Royale... what happened in the Battle Royale when Mojo eliminated Zack Ryder, and someone stole Bruce Ango's toy horse. Personally, I would like to see Mojo really turn on Zack Ryder. However, I actually did count the face and heel teams on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. Raw has 2 face teams and 3 heel teams. Counting the Singh brothers, Raw has 4 face teams and 4 heel teams. 3 heel teams you don't count the Singh brothers. And then I believe NXT has a very similar number. It's kind of in between. It's like more like 3-3 or 3-2 or something like that. I don't know. I didn't really pay attention to that, to be honest. But I would like to, personally, if anyone's going to turn heel, I would like to see Mojo turn heel. But I do think Mojo is the next John Cena. Mojo has the capability to become the next John Cena. I really want him to become the next John Cena. And the main event for this week's SmackDown was John Cena, AJ Styles against Rusev and Kevin Owens. Basically, pretty good match. But Rusev didn't get pinned. KO got pinned by Cena. Cena did an AA, an attitude adjustment to Owens, and then of course got the win. It was a pretty good match overall, and I believe we're going to see Kevin Owens versus AJ at the pay-per-view anyway. So don't expect any title changes next week on SmackDown if there's an open challenge. Rusev not getting pinned here, I think, even though John Cena could potentially be having a big match at SummerSlam, I do think Rusev is winning that one, because it's not. I mean, if you lose a flag match, that's like losing an ambulance match. Actually, it's more like losing a dumpster match, because you're not really. It doesn't really hurt you in any way. Especially John Cena. John Cena can't really be. Like, he can't really be. Like, he can be squashed, but he can't have all of his credibility taken away, because he's a 16-time world champion. You know, he's a multiple-time US champion. I think he's potentially a multiple-time tag team champion, or just a one-time. I don't know. He's also a future Hall of Famer. You know, he's a Money in the Bank winner. He's won the Royal Rumble. There's not much you can do to basically be like, this guy doesn't matter anymore. So I think Rusev winning is going to be happening at Battleground. But anyway, I think that'll do it for today's review of Raw and SmackDown. I've got a nice little just under 40 minutes here today. That's nice. That's good. I like those ones, because going just going under or over 40 minutes is fine. So it's nice. It's like you can do it quickly and get the podcast out of the way if it's a really bad week for wrestling. But this week was okay. It wasn't nothing really major happened. We've kind of got a little bit of insight into SummerSlam. We've also got a bit more insight into Battleground, which is happening next week on Sunday. I'll be watching the matches on Sunday. I'll be watching the pay-per-view on Sunday, of course. Or not Sunday, sorry, Monday. Probably I'll try and watch all the matches and get a review out the following day, or even that day. I don't know. However, that will do it for this week for the Kickin Out of Kayfabe podcast. As always, I have been your host, Adam, and that was a review of the Raw and SmackDown for this week. Next week, it will be a review for, again, Raw and SmackDown. No pay-per-view next week, thank God. We're not having SummerSlam or Battleground next week. We're having Battleground the following week in terms of podcast. We're doing the review of that, not the week after, hopefully. But anyway, I think that'll do it for this week of the Kickin Out of Kayfabe podcast. This has been the 6th edition of the Kickin Out of Kayfabe podcast. I think I said 6 at the start of this. But that was a review of Raw and SmackDown for this week. And thank you for listening. I'm not good with outros, so I'm just going to say thank you for listening again. Cheers.